Welcome to the HyperFast Agent Growth Show. Get real strategies, real results, and real estate them differently. Lead generation, team building, AI, and more from billion-dollar agents, best-selling authors, international speakers, and real estate coaches, Kerry Shull and Lesniak. Let's dive in!
All right, welcome back to the HyperFast Agent Growth Show. We've got our panel today and a lot of exciting topics that we're going to be going over. So big news on a couple fronts actually broke this week, right? Like the day or two before the show. So one is the Chicago MLS is going to cut Zillow's MLS feed. So Zillow is no longer going to have access to the feed of listings in the Chicago area. That's a major market. And, you know, is this going to be a one-off or is it a sign of more to come? We'll talk about that, as well as Google getting back into the portal game. So they briefly did this last year. It went away for a couple months. I think they were retweaking some things, and now they have entered in 8 different markets, and they've got a big deal with a major brokerage on that as well. And then, you know, there's a lot of challenges for first-time home buyers, and there's a trend of more co-buying as an answer for many first-time home buyers. And we'll probably talk about AI at some point as well, because we talk about that a lot in almost every show, because it's rapidly changing our industry and creating massive opportunity for real estate agents who embrace it. So first topic for the panel today, big news in Chicago, right? The real deal headline here, I'm just going to read it. Chicago MLS goes nuclear. MRED plans to sever the Zillow feed. So they're giving Zillow a quick deadline to restore listings, right? Restore listings that had been previously marketed, or they're going to lose the entire feed, and Zillow is going to federal court to stop this. Obviously, Compass, you know, the Compass Zillow feud, I think, has a big role in this. James, what is your take on what's going on in Chicago?
You know, way back when the MLSs were required to syndicate all of the listings to everybody, there were unintended consequences that no one could foresee. And this is just whatever it is, 20 years on, unintended consequence that Zillow, who's built their entire business on using what was supposed to be a public good for profit, and the conflict that arises as a result. I think it's a real problem for Zillow. You know, even for people in other markets, if they're hearing that Zillow might not be showing all of the listings, even if it's in a different market, I think that shakes people's confidence, and, you know, they're likely to go to another source. And then, you know, one of the news topics we'll talk about later, I think has an add-on effect, but I'll leave that topic for the next topic.
Yeah, Nick, what are your thoughts on this? And you know, a lot of it actually has to do with Compass trying to create this national inventory, and so I think Chicago specifically said, you know, you can't block homes that were marketed on this other channel, right, from displaying in our public listing feed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think that, you know, obviously a lot of buyers are shopping on Zillow, and you know, agents kind of want you know, Encompass's value proposition is, you know, the private exclusive. You can sell your home off market, and kind of in a private way, right? Which has been a great tool for sellers, right? And but it's not always. It's a great tool for sellers. It's disclosed to sellers, and sellers have been winning like that, which is why Compass has even been able to pull that off for so long, and why it's even attractive to some agents that go over there. I think that listings not being on Zillow is bad for the consumer, I guess. But I think if, you know, people are working with strong agents that are not just depending on the MLS or what the consumer is finding on Zillow, I think they'll still find homes to buy. So I don't think it's a huge deal overall, actually. Um, if your agent
Yeah,
is, like, you know, playing a full contact sport, you're gonna find a listing you want. And if you've signed a document that said, "Hey, I'm gonna sell my listing in a private way," then that's cool too, you know?
is it really off market though if you're putting on this national MLS that any agent in the country can see? That's kind of interesting, right? What we define off market.
What I find interesting is, you know, when there's a fight, especially when there are lawyers involved, both sides lose. And if Compass and Zillow are losing as a result of this fight. I think all the other realtors and the MLS, I mean, I guess you could say the MLS is part of this fight, but all the other realtors and brokerages have a net win as a result.
Karl, what's your take? I know you'd probably give a loan to a buyer, if they're buying their home on market, off market, on Zillow, off Zillow, right?
All really good points from you guys. Bad for the consumer, good for the other agents. Uh, I, the first thing I think of is that like the whole off-market exclusive is only valuable if it's leveraged the right way. I mean, one of my realtor friends that's at Compass made an offer on one of the off-market exclusives like last week. And it was a full price offer for what the seller was asking for on off market. And they said, oh, we're not going to take that. And it's like, well, what's the point of listing it off market if you're listing it for the price that you don't want? So that was mind boggling to me. But yeah, I mean, anything that's kind of a punch to the gut for Zillow, I'm all for because, they're ultimately trying to eliminate, us from the business. So.
I think the biggest thing is that Compass has just figured out how to their agents use their off-market platform, right? So I know in our area the thing was, and they're a big company, right? So I mean, EXP does have an exclusive, private exclusive listing platform. Agents just aren't trained to use it, right? So it's not a big deal. The other
Nick, do you think it's that they're not training to use it or they don't want to?
No, they're not trained to use it. So like when I was the Compass agent and I was using private exclusive all the time. And the reason I was and it was helping me get listing agreements signed. Hey James, you want to sell your house in December? Cool. We can sign a listing agreement today and I could put your listing on private exclusive and we can start getting eyes on it, right? We may find someone off market and we can test pricing, right? Because what happens on the Compass private exclusive is let's just say I think my house is worth $980,000. Well, we can list it for $1 million on private exclusive, and we can see how much traffic it gets because it goes into kind of like portal searches, like Real Scout, right? Like Compass has its own app, so you can test pricing and test engagement and test interest that way. And then if someone, you don't want to sell your house in December, I got a buyer who's like doesn't want to move until December or January. Cool, we have a deal, right? But at Compass, that value proposition is constantly promoted and talked about. And we know when Compass came into to the market, they basically bought by bonusing all of the luxury agents and top agents. So top agents know how to use it the right way and they know how to position it, right? The problem is that like EXP has that same platform, right? But we just don't use it. It's not even discussed often, right? And then with the other brokerages, KW, Remax, et cetera, they're all individually owned, right? So you can't actually, KW is not a national chain. Like, so KWCP can't share listings with KW Metro Center. It's illegal. So Compass is just like winning a race that sellers like and agents like and buyers don't mind. And like everyone's salty about it, you know? But I haven't personally read an article or seen anything where like the Compass seller is upset that they sold their house off market, right? Like I haven't seen that. This is like a brokerage fight. This is like a billionaire fight. People being sold. Like it's not.
What about the buyers that are making offers like you just talked about, the buyer that offered exactly what they were asking for and they said no?
Hey, I don't want to sell my house. I had a listing. I was telling Carl about this that like was on the market 2 weeks ago. We put it on the market on the Bright MLS. We got an offer. We got an offer. We got two offers, right? One offer we're going to ratify. And then the seller was like, actually, I don't think that I have enough net, right, from this deal to like move into my next deal. So I'm going to take the house off the market. I mean, it just happened on Bright, right? Like if a seller, I mean, all we can do as real estate agents and brokers is like bring the house to the market and bring a buyer to the house. And then like those parties have to sign to move the deal forward, right? So if a seller says, hey, I'm not ready, or hey, I don't want to sell, or I was on, Compass testing my price, I don't like the million. Maybe the $1 million validated like, hey, I can get $1 million off market. So maybe I'll go on market in 2 months, right? And get 1.25 or 1.025 or one
Why
million,
not do that
right?
in the Coming Soon platform on MLS?
because in coming soon, you also can't show properties. So when your house is on the MLS coming soon, if I'm not an agent of that brokerage, I can't see the property. But if the house is on Compass, exclusive, coming soon, I can still show that house. So like we could test on the MLS if I could go see KW listings and Compass listings. I'm an EXP agent, so if I can go see KW listings and Compass listings and Remax listings, then sure, let's all test it on coming soon. But they don't allow for that.
Yeah, it's an
So
interesting
actually, it's
rule.
like the MLS creating the restrictions that's allowing Compass to win this race.
which is
I
ironic.
I think there's a couple points here. I like the billionaire fight because I think the Chicago MLS is doing what they think is best for their bottom line, right? Compass is doing what they think is best for their shareholders, and Zillow's doing what they think is best for their shareholders, and then they're all positioning it and saying we're doing this for the consumers, right? But
Yeah.
they're all doing it for their shareholders. I think that's um, should be pretty evident to everyone, right? Like nobody graduates from Goldman Sachs to go start a company to go help consumers. That would be historical if that ever happened. These are corporations, right? So I think everyone needs to remember that, and don't listen to the spin from any of them.
Yeah.
Nick, I had a question. When it's on that platform, can anybody, anyone in the public like log on and see that it's coming soon, or is it only Compass agents and people working with Compass agents?
It's only Compass agents and people working with Compass agents
Yeah.
can see it. So someone would have to sign a buyer agency agreement with the Compass agent legally. They'd have to sign a buyer agent agreement with the Compass agent, I suppose, and they just have to get access to the app. Maybe that's the legal way to do it, but honestly, like if I'm sitting at a Starbucks and someone's like, "Hey, or I need find some listings off market." I'm just like, "Oh, I'm a Compass agent. Like, look at all the listings that you can't find." So basically, Compass has done a good job. And the reason Compass can do that, they've done a good job making like their platform, like the platform agents have to work out of, like their CRM. Everything is done in there, right? Your transactions, your deal flow, client communication. They have like a real estate search app. Everything is done in there. So as long as you have a Compass agent or can work with one, you kind of get access to all of that as a consumer.
Well,
Yeah,
that
I
makes
think.
me
Oh, go ahead.
that makes me want to ask my Compass friends, like, do you have to sign the buyer agreement to get the off-market listings?
I
Because
don't think so.
one of my EXP friends said that one of his Compass friends put him in as a buyer so he gets the emails on the off-market exclusives.
Yeah, don't say anybody's names there, Carl.
Yeah, no names.
Well, two things. I think one, I think Compass has done a great job of taking high commissions from agents and then using that money to like promote and market and incentivize them to stay on the platform.
Yeah.
I know at some points in times they're even like paying people bonuses or marketing bonuses if they were a high user of the system. And then two, I think with AI, it's just inevitable that, yeah, we're going to have all these different deals, like Compass has with Redfin and EXP has with Homes and Google and Realtor.com and, KW and that whole, they did the deal with Zillow, right? Well, I don't think it's too long until an AI engine just is able to crawl all of that somehow, right? I mean, the technology is probably there. It doesn't seem like it's hard to get around it, like Karl just said, and then users are probably going to use that more, and so it's like the MLS's role is going to be diminished. And we have all these billionaires, I think, trying to protect their stakeholders.
I think what's interesting is like so Compass has done a good job essentially like vertically integrating, like their platform, right? And they're one corporation, so they can do that nationwide. EXP can do the same thing if it wanted to. So we have these discussions like, what's your tech stack, right? Compass agents are not talking about what their tech stack is because Compass offers the tech stack and you can just do everything in there, right? So you don't have to get all these other systems. They have a likely to sell similar to Fellow. They have a valuation similar to HomeBot. They have a CRM like Follow Up Boss are using. They have a search tool like Real Scout. So they've just vertically integrated inside the system. EXP can do it, and maybe another company, Real might be able to do it, right? I think the biggest issue for the real estate agent is that the MLS is always losing, right? Like the Realtor.com, And the MLS, the associations, they always are behind the eight ball. Even in these things, like they should have already figured out how to make the MLS more powerful than all of these other tools. But they haven't even tried to do that yet. Even in simple things like, I mean, we all have a certain tech stack, right? Like I have Real Scout. Why do I use Real Scout? Because like Bright MLS like looks like it's AOL.com, you know? So like the MLS and like the real estate agent, who is NAR, they don't do anything for it. They lost the lawsuit that they shouldn't lose, right? Bright MLS still looks like it's prehistoric, right? And they're not even, are they even in the fight? Right? Like NAR is like the issue, and we pay them as real estate agents to lose to like a company that, I mean, what's Compass, 10 years old, right? Like what is NAR doing?
And we're still putting asterisks and different like Boolean codes into our our searches, which is
Well, I would argue that because NAR is older, they've had more time to be a target of antitrust. And that era is just beginning for the Zillows and the Compasses.
yeah. I'm sure that's gonna come down the pipeline too. But
Yeah.
I think as real estate agents, what do you do with all this? Well, no matter where you're at, right? You're in charge of your own business. You're a 1099 contractor. Focus on that. And if you're willing to log into more than one platform, you can save tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on your commission, build revenue share, earn stock awards, and I'll just put a quick plug. If anyone's listening to this and you're like, what is it like at eXp Realty, right? How much can I save on my commission? How easy is it to expand to other markets? What can I earn in stock awards, right? What kind of monthly recurring non-transactional revenue can I build in revenue share? Well, you can talk to anyone on this show about that and what it's like to partner with our group, because you're not just joining EXP, you're joining our EXP legacy family, and you're getting our coaching programs, our training, our support, and helping you build a team or sell more homes or build revenue share. So you can talk to James, myself, or Nick, or even Karl. He can help you in those discussions too, give you like a non-realtor perspective, and we'd be honored to have that conversation with you. So let's move on to the next topic here. It's another version of Portal Wars. So Mike Del Preti wrote about this. Google home listings are back in 8 major markets, right? So it's a new pilot program. They're partnered with House Canary on this, right? And we all, if you guys have listened to the show before, especially when James is talking, like a lot of Zillow's success probably, right? It's because Google likes to keep them at the top of the search results. Well, Google's, I don't know what's the big fancy word you say? I can't pronounce it, James.
Oh yeah, they're disintermediating.
Yeah, that's too complex for me to pronounce. They're doing that word that James said, maybe in real estate now.
They're cutting out the middleman.
And cutting out the middleman, that's easier. Yeah, so it's live in 8 markets: Chicago, Miami, Cleveland, Austin, Texas, Greater San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles, San Diego, and New York. So the listings show like right at the top of the Google search results. I think a couple big things. One, EXP has the deal with them, right? So they are they're the only ones with the deal. And when they signed their portal deal, they were non-exclusive, meaning Zillow is exclusive to Redfin, right? KW is exclusive to Zillow, or no, I messed that up earlier. Compass is exclusive to Redfin, and KW is exclusive to Zillow. EXP is on homes.com, realtor.com, and Google, and they were able to get more because they didn't sign an exclusive. And the listings that are showing in these 8 markets, it's not just the coming soons, it's all EXP listings. And a couple cool things for the listing agent. It's not like on if you're on Zillow and you want to find out who the listing agent is, right? Either because you want to contact the person that knows the most about the home, or I know a lot of buyers think, oh, if I call the listing agent, I can like save on commission. We won't discuss whether that's actually true or not, but hint, it's usually not. On Zillow, it's like a treasure hunt to find who the Zillow agent is. Like I think they have it on there somewhere in fine print. But it's really hard to find, and it's really designed for you to contact Zillow Flex agents, right? Well, Google's is making it like go directly to the listing agent, anyone that has questions, and then I think what they're rolling out is if you indicate that you want to talk to a buyer's agent, they're going to partner you with people with local service ads, which that's a big opportunity for all agents, not just EXP agents. So obviously, like if you're an EXP agent, you have your listing on top of Google. That's a great selling point in a listing presentation, right? Like, hey, because my company has this deal with Google, when people are searching for homes in this area, you're going to be at the top, and then not below. That's a big selling point, and then getting those direct connections as well. But any agent who's doing local service ads can take advantage of what this platform is going to offer, and hopefully it expands quickly. James, since you know how to pronounce the fancy word for middleman, cutting out the middleman, why don't you go first on this one?
Yeah. Zillow's game has been getting between a real estate agent and the consumer. And now Google is getting between, is basically cutting out Zillow. And I'm pro business. I want small businesses to succeed, but Zillow is the company that has been making thousands and thousands of small businesses as realtors either pay extra money to Zillow as a gatekeeper, or cut other real estate agents out. And so for now, I'm in favor of it. I guess it kind of depends what Google does. If they win, when they win, and cut out Zillow. But for now, the Google local services ads, I think, is really fantastic. And I think that they absolutely have the ability and power to take Zillow out, or to greatly diminish their role and their place in the marketplace, because they control so much. They control it upstream. People go into a browser that's built by Google, and all of like the web protocol and SEO is geared around Google. So Google really controls what people see, where they see the results, right at the top, and where they place the Zillow results. And if someone has to click, one less time to get to that information, I think they're going to. I think one big question is, are they going to have a platform that people can go back to in a recurring way instead of just a one-off? And I think that they will. I think it'll be just like Google search, the Google Flights search.
Nick, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think it's so cool that it's so valuable and important to like own a home and be involved in real estate somehow, that even Google, who is primarily a search engine, has decided to get in the game, right? Like I think people should be like, wow, like I should own some real estate or kind of put myself in the game somehow, because the search engine company is now like trying to position themselves in it, right? I think that shout out to Leo Pereira, right? Obviously, in his time as a real estate agent, he was dominating in our market. And so I think EXP is in a great position because our CEO was a real estate agent. And he actually, I think like he's campaigning and trying to do things that put real estate agents at the forefront. And real estate agents need and love the consumer, right? For our business. So, you know, having this type of partnership just helps us connect better. And I think it's also good that like agents that are investing in Google local service ads, which is not cheap, kind of get the first like tee up for the lead, right? And so I think this is great for the agent and great for the consumer. And anyone who doesn't own a home should like realize that like it's probably like one of the most important things to do, because all the home site companies are now fighting with the brokerages and MLS, and then Google just like enter the game and they'll probably win at the end of the day.
Karl, what about you?
Nick took the words out of my mouth. I mean, great for the consumer, great for the agent. It's more exposure for potential homes. It's another easy way for home buyers to be able to find opportunities. I don't know how that you could spin that as a bad thing from an agent or a consumer standpoint. So I'm open to any like downfalls that anybody could see on that. I mean, and I don't think it would really take too much web traffic from Zillow ultimately anyways, because I mean, a lot of people have the Zillow app on their phone. Like I know a bunch of real estate agents that have the Zillow app on their phone, you know, and look at houses on Zillow even though they have access to the MLS directly, right? So, I mean, I think that people are still going to go to Zillow. They're a big brand. People like the platform, right? I think to James's point is like not only is it that like whether how relevant it is going to be based on like how they redirect traffic back, but also, I mean, how do they make it really user friendly? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, everybody just wants whatever the most user friendly platform is, in my opinion.
Well, and obviously, if they take it too far and like all of a sudden Zillow is on like page 5, we're gonna be back in antitrust, right? Like
Yeah.
that's out there. So, um, the one thing I want to comment on though is I think we're yeah with Nick. I want to echo. I think with Leo at the helm, like he's like the perfect person for this moment. Like it wasn't just that he was an agent. He was the youngest number one agent in the KW system ever. Like he hit number 1 in the whole KW system.
Yeah,
I
wasn't he
think
what, 23 or 28?
yeah, I was just gonna say early 20s because I don't know the exact age, but and then he owned a market center, right? Then he started a lending company, private lending company that became one of the biggest in the DC area that basically like runs itself. And then he did a remine, right? So he created a technology platform that used algorithms to determine seller likely to score and other data, and went around and sold that to all the MLSs for several years. And I'm pretty sure he was kind of just kicking back, when Glenn called him up and wanted him to come on as chief strategy officer, and then a couple years later CEO. So like that really, I think when you look at all the leadership around, like you got agent experience, team leader experience, broker owner experience, growing multiple companies, like technology that makes the MLS better. He's really like the perfect person for this moment, I would think. If not, I'd love to see like who would be more qualified. So I feel really good about him at the helm during this shift that we're going through. All right, well, let's move on to our last topic here. Only have a few minutes. Co-buying is on the rise. We'll let Karl be the first to take a crack at this one, but it's interesting because first-time home buyers are super challenged with affordability, both payment and down payment. First-time home buyers are making up, according to Keeping Current Matters, a lower percentage of the market than ever. I think 20% of all home purchase. So that's the lowest share since they started tracking this in 1981. And 73% of these buyers say that affordability is the big reason why. And so co-buying's on the rise. What is co-buying? Well, they basically define it as purchasing a home with someone else, friend, sibling, parent, unmarried partner, basically someone that you're not married to. And this shocked me when I saw the stat here, but it's at 31%, 31.5% of home purchases now involve co-buyers, up from 25% in 2021, which even the 25% I would have told you that was surprising. So that's on the rise. Are you seeing more of that as a lender, Karl? And what do you make of this trend? And how should agents, adapt to this? And I think another evolution of this, like what things if you're co-buying with like a boyfriend or girlfriend or a brother or sister or a friend, like what do you need to think of legally up front? Like, if
Kind of like a prenup, right?
Yeah, or if one of you wants to sell, move, etc., or move out and rent your room to someone. Right? I see a lot of issues, but we'll let Nick kick this one, or Karl kick this one off.
Yeah, I've seen it personally. Brother and sister buy a house, multi-generational homes. I got one right now, brother and sister, three people, right? So it's extremely common now, a lot more commonplace than it was 10 years ago when I got started in the business. I think as a real estate agent, I think that there's two really important things that you should take away from this data and act on and learn. Number one, I think it's important to understand the different ways that people can take title. Now, obviously, you're not expected to be a title attorney, but talk to your trusted title company and learn about the differences between joint tenancy, tenancy in common. So that way you're more educated, you're in more of a position of authority, and you can better prepare your buyers for what their options are for the legal aspect for whenever they go to sell the house or, part ways, right? What they're going to do with that wealth that they've created on the back end. Um, because they're probably going to be, if this is a first time purchase with the co-buyers, hopefully you're staying in touch with them and you're getting another transaction with them later on in life. But the other thing is maybe changing the way that your scripting is right now when you're having conversations with potential clients. Part of my script up front is always asking, who else is going to be buying the home with you? Who else is going to live in the home? Right? Because if the first question, who else is buying the home with you? It's pretty common that people be like, oh, I want to do this by myself. Okay, great. Let's do that. Assuming that everything aligns. But if it doesn't align, well, I want to know who else is going to live there. Because if I know who else is going to live there, then I have a better chance of being able to provide solutions and find something that's going to work to ultimately get them in a home.
Well, you brought up an interesting thing. Who's going to live there? Even if that person's not co-buying with you, doesn't have ownership. Like, it depends on the state and the locality you're in. But once they've been there, even for like, I don't, it just depends on the time, right? But in some places, it's like a week or so. They have what's called like squatters' rights at this point too. So even if they don't own it with you, right? You may want to have some type of agreement up front. People just don't like doing that. I know, but definitely something to look into. And certainly if you're buying with them, right? Like what's going to happen if one person wants to sell and the other doesn't? Because like if you needed both to qualify to buy it, refining to cash someone out is going to be even harder, probably. So there's a lot to think about up front. And yeah, agents, you gotta ask the questions up front, I think. James, I know you might have to jump off, so what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I think it's creative. I think it's going to result in a lot of disagreement. I think that the legal field of resolving those disagreements is going to grow significantly or proportionately. Um, and I mean, part of real estate, why America is big on owning real estate is because we have a culture of determining our own destiny. And I think that works, in a marriage or a relationship equivalent to a marriage. Outside of that, it doesn't work as well, and people don't like to be restricted by what other people's rights are. And so, yeah, I think it's creative, and on one hand, I love it, but I also know that it's going to result in some frustration and hardship for people. Some
Nick,
people.
are you seeing more of this, Nick?
Yeah, I've seen it mostly with, unmarried couples, right? So, people who have had relationships for a long time and they feel as though they're going to get married in the future and most of the times they do and they just want to get the ball rolling from a real estate, aspect. So they do it that way. I actually recorded a video about this a little while ago. I think it's a good idea in the relationship perspective. I've also had clients who high school sweethearts, bought a house, got engaged, decided they didn't want to be together anymore, and they had to sell that property, right? And it was a lot like working with a divorced couple. Um, and so I think that it's a positive thing. I think, like Carl said, for real estate agents, it's you be able to, kind of break down title to your buyers. And if they still don't understand, just have a title attorney that or biz dev person there that could really like explain title so your clients know what they're getting into. I think that I'm imagining that like, millennials like we have our general like we have our information, but I think Gen Z is just like they have so much information, and they understand kind of like the investing game and the asset stacking game a little bit more, and they realize it's out of reach for them. And so I think that they're finding creative solutions to build wealth in a non-conventional in an unconventional way because everything isn't available like it was for to us. Um, and I think that this is probably I think it's just divorce, man. Like figure out title, figure out if you're buying LLC or you buying, just as regular, people, like know your state laws on, residency. And if you do this with the right person or the right group of people and you guys can build some wealth and, exit the right way, like I think it's positive. It's no different if, us four decided to buy a big multi somewhere, 20 unit building, 40 unit building. We just
Yeah,
set
I'm on
ourselves
board
up,
with that.
right? So I think that like if there's a maturity aspect, right? So my 21 and 22-year-olds who don't understand life yet might be a little risky for them, right? Because it's more emotional. But I think as people get closer to 30, 31, they can't afford property. This is a great solution for everybody to kind of win,
Well, the average first time home buyer now is like 41 or 40. So it's as high as it's ever been. And part of that definitely is affordability. I think another part of it too is like we're just moving to a renter culture. Like most people don't even own their own music anymore, right? They rent that from Apple or Spotify. So it's a lot to navigate there as an agent. But yeah, the more creative solutions like familiarize yourself with the rules and laws around it. Don't be the expert or certainly don't practice law without a license, right? But have the basic understanding and know who to connect them to get the answers. That's always an important part of our job. Like, we're not lawyers, we're not financial advisors, but we should know the basics and who they can contact and help educate them because they're in a lot of cases they're probably not even aware. And I think the more awareness and opportunity and creative solutions you can bring to the clients, the better we can serve them and the more solutions that we can provide them. And so I think it's, if more people are doing it, it's an opportunity, I think. But that's all the time we've got for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you think we've earned a 5-star review, and if you're still listening, you definitely think we have, please go ahead and leave a review and a comment. Right, you can tap the 5 stars on Apple or leave a comment and subscribe on YouTube or do the same on Spotify. So thank you for tuning in this week, and we will see you next time.
You've been listening to HyperFast Agent Growth Show with Karl Svendsen and Lesniak. Real strategies, real results, real estate done differently. If you love this episode, tap subscribe and share with another agent who's ready to grow.